404, what are we in for? Like, comment, subscribe. So yeah, talk some UBI. There's Katrina Gould out of Burlington. Anyways, she was talking about potentially having UBI as a part of the supplement for Canadians, lower income Canadians, standard of living and whatnot. Yeah, I don't know, man. UBI is not the solution. This is not anything new. I heard something with Pierre Polyev saying that they tried this experiment for millennia. It boils down to money and just money and where money, the history of money, basically, from the start of money. And I guess he alludes to it, but he never really says. But there's two schools of thought when it comes to money. There's Austrian economics and there's Keynesian economics. And he says it all the time, actually. He says less government intervention, which is Austrian economics. And then there's Keynesian, where there's more government intervention. So this is what these governments are doing right now. They all believe in Keynesian economics, right? And it's basically spend unlimited money. And when there's a crisis, like say a housing crisis, like in the United States, you plug the hole, you fill it with money, and you fill every area that needs to be filled in a crisis with money. So basically, they have the money, they spend the money, unlimited resources and stuff like that. So basically, this has been done for millennia. And every single time that they do this, it fails. There is no time in history that anybody has ever successfully done Keynesian economics and it's worked. They labeled it with a fancy title, modern monetary theory, but in reality, it's not that modern. It's the same old, they just repackaged it. And this is one of the reasons why our money's so low. And it's actually funny because he knows about the history of money because he was saying buy Bitcoin, right? But before Bitcoin, it was gold because gold used to be the reserve. So like you put your money in gold, always goes up. And this still does hold true, but it's a slow mover. And silver, it's a slow mover. Actually, in 2008, gold and silver went crazy because this was before, what's that guy, Satoshi, whoever it is, like the fictitious character who created the white paper for Bitcoin before that. But he actually did this because of the crisis to say, we need to have a shelter for money. So it was actually funny, right? So, because Bitcoin is, it had its ebbs and flows, and it still does have its ebbs and flows. So there was a time in Parliament, like I was watching, and like specifically, Chrystia Freeland would always be like, when she was addressing Pierre Polyev, she'd be like, if you invested in Bitcoin, you would have lost I think it was like 40% of your nest egg. Last time I checked, I don't know, Bitcoin's hovering around 90 to like $102,000 USD. This is because they understand that most economies are using the Keynesian system. So basically, they're going to spend money and just light this thing on fire. Look at Zimbabwe. There's a country in South America too, right? Like the money is like, you got $1 million, like $1 million gets you like, I don't know, a carton of eggs. This is what happens in the Keynesian system, right? We have this, but we have it on a lower level, right? So now, because as you can see, a house that used to cost $50,000 and is now $1.7 million in 2025, it's only going to go up. It's only actually going to go up. And they know this by theory because the more they spend, the more there's inflation. So therefore, everything goes up because you can't put the money genie back in the bottle anymore. Like it has to go up. So they know that they're doing this. And this is why they're giving you because they're saying, you're going to need this little bit of money from us in order to survive, because when everything goes up, your income cannot pay for this, and it's going to lead to like even more poverty than we've already seen. That's why we've seen this progressive poverty that's happening, and there's a blurred line in the middle class. This is not correcting itself, not on this monetary philosophy. That's the part that they don't want to tell you. They think that this is going to work, and they've been doing this, at least I would say, as far as I know, as long as the liberal government's been in power, like Trudeau. But on the conservative, they believe more in the Austrian, right? So he's trying to save the money when one is trying to light the money on fire, but he doesn't care if the money's lit on fire because he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. So what does he care? So all of these hand-me-outs, a gimmick. They're not giving you anything for free. They know what's happening, but they're not directly going to tell you that. Because look at the Bank of Canada governor right now, Tiff McCallum, he's lowering interest rates. He's trying to lower this thing back down to the floor if he could. And that's not stimulating the markets because we already went through a round of inflation already. Now, after the inflation, everything's up so much. It doesn't matter. You can give us the same low rates, but you're not giving us the same price point that you got back when you dropped the interest rates down before. Now he's trying to say, everybody's saying, lower the rates so that we can get this housing Ponzi scheme back in full swing where everybody's going to pay exorbitant amount of money in order to buy property and stuff like that. Who are you going to pass this off to? All you're doing is passing it off to the people in the game. They're like, oh, okay, I sold my property and now I'm buying one at equivalent value or even higher. There's no more transferring up. They've removed a layer of people that are in the game because when you make housing a part of your GDP, it becomes part of your country's production and growth. This is not an actual tangible company that produces something you can give to somebody else, like basic business, like you provide a good or a service. This is not like providing a service or goods for somebody in a normal way. This is like transferring money from one person to another and just securing like growth. This should be more of a passive investment, not a scheme that is a part of your actual country's growth. This game was obviously going to end at some point. There's going to be somebody holding the bag at the end, just like a game of musical chairs, and then the person who's still standing at when the song stops as the bag holder. This is where it seems to be at this point because you've priced most of Canada out of the market. So UBI is not an experiment that you want to have. I get it. Maybe short term it might seem good because you're like, oh, I'm getting free money, so therefore I don't have to get a secondary job or side hustle or anything like that. But it's always good at the start until it goes bad. I think Canadians will ultimately see that. The governor of Canada, Tiff McCallum, he's been in his job for years, and he was put into the job, and the guy before him, Stephen Polas, I think that's how you say his name, but he was in this position, and because they give you these updates for the economy and stuff like that, Stephen Polas was already concerned about the housing market in his tenure of being the Bank of Canada governor. And like, I think he was under a little bit of pressure. I can't say that's why he left the job, but then, Tip comes in, and it's almost like he didn't even realize that, like, Stephen was saying these things. And he just continued with the same money printing, and he ran the money printers to the moon. And you can't look in the camera and be like with some shock and awe at this point and say, oh, we're not going to give you stimulus and stuff like that. Honestly, he's trying to stimulate the markets, but there's no stimulus. It's a corpse. I've seen a graph before and I don't know if it's true or not, but the way the graph looks, where it's like smart money and investor money catches on, and then the average person catches on. So it's a volume type movement. The madness moves crowds, right? Like, it starts small, but it gains momentum. And then people get to a point where they believe that the market's never going to go down and that this market's going to the moon. And then it can't because there's always a threshold. That part you can't really predict because you can't predict human nature to that level, but there's going to be a threshold. There's always going to be people who believe, and they were already late to the party. They jumped in after the smart money and the investor money. The initial people took their profits and gave it to the layman's, and then they think it's going to the moon. It doesn't. It stalls. And then it reverses course. It has to reverse course. There's nothing in life goes up forever. There's ebbs and flows. Markets do, over time, go up That's actually something. Anything is going to go up. And it should over time in a normal market where things gradually move. So, yeah, but that Bitcoin thing where they were really saying, oh, you're losing your slush fund, at that point, you probably would have, well, say 20,000, 40,000, 80,000. You would have tripled your money at that point. Some people are estimating to go to 500,000. So, anyways, I think people looking for these safe havens as a means to counterbalance MMT of lighting your money on fire. This is why that practical sense of, okay, you spend $1 and you try to save $1. You do this, but you do that. This is like a balance sheet of assets and liabilities. You have to do one thing to do another thing. This is how budgets are balanced. They don't just balance themselves like some people think, right? Oh, the budget will balance itself. Will it really? Out of nowhere? Out of the forces of what? What divine force in the universe is going to allow for things to just balance themselves? If you don't actually put the proper energy towards something in order to create a balance, that's lazy and very, quite honestly, it's poor leadership. It's poor leadership, which is why I'm like, man, Carney's economist. This is his monetary policy as well. He doesn't believe in Austrian economics. He believes in Keynesian economics. We had a prime minister who was an economist already, Stephen Harper, and then y'all got tired of that guy. I know there's a lifespan with these politicians, and you get tired of seeing the same face. You know when somebody is doing a good job when y'all really didn't hear about him that much. I never really hear about him. He was under the silver fox, bro. He was just doing what he does. This, cunning little type person, understands the game. He even said when it was Trudeau versus Harper, if you guys go this route, this is going to happen. Because he's thinking from an economist point of view. If you guys want to see what money printing is all about, y'all are going to see it. And we all are seeing it right now. I know people don't like numbers, and numbers are scary, right? I dropped math after grade 10, but this is not complex math. This is basic math. This is, we should all know this, I believe. And this should be how we determine where we're going within our country and stuff like that, especially if they're going to decide to just spend our money in all of these places, like standing on stage and we're putting $5 billion into XYZ country and stand there as if you're doing something for Canadian people. So where's my check? Where's my money? Like I don't see how that works for me. What do you got going on? Like this? Man, I watched, what's that show? Ozark. Like how you hide money and move money. Yeah. It's like, this is Ozark, man. Like when he put the money into the graveyard, into the tombs that people have, when he was hiding the money in the tombs and stuff like that, just shelling it out. Like, this is what that is. Like, you putting money into just these places that nobody knows where the heck it's going. It's like you hiding your money in a tomb and then allocating it towards the benefits of whoever the money is going to. It just all sounds fishy. But yeah, I think that we as Canadians need to be more cognizant about money and where our money is actually going. We pay taxes. We are the ones essentially paying for all of this stuff. So if we can't even do basic math or just follow the money, this is the easy rule to the game. You follow the money, wherever the money shows up is where the action's at. We need to start doing that and holding these government officials accountable and stuff like that. You say, oh, the green slush fund, I don't even know what's called green slush fund, but it was like this green initiative project. It was like just earmarked. Where is that money going? It's just earmarked for a special occasion? How is this being allocated? Somebody let me know, please. I need somebody who knows more than I do to let me know where this money is going. And I don't know, man. I just hope that we have to get our heads out of the sand here, man, and look at this thing from a different level, man, because it's not about just you. It's about the future generations. We're already going backwards. This doesn't solve itself. It might solve itself in a transfer of wealth once your parents have gone, and then you inherit some property and stuff like that. But if you're not even like on that and you don't have that privilege, which because there's still a lot of this is a country full of immigrants, first generation, maybe second generation immigrants, and there's a lot of immigrants further down the line. But if you're one of these type people, you don't, the inheritance is not coming your direction, and therefore you become the worker class. This is how they play with the numbers with GDP, making it seem like it's higher than it is by bringing more people in order to divide out the GDP. Like everybody's now there's more people contributing, but come on, man. And essentially you're creating a lower class citizen, which if you don't have the skills or ingenuity to maneuver out of that level, you stay stuck in that level. And that's what they want. And you can stay there. That's how these economically challenged societies work. They create big divides. America's definitely more polarizing. We don't want to become like that where it clearly segregates people. We do that, but we don't do it on dick. They do it in the States where there's huge pockets of people who are just underprivileged, have to essentially do the menial jobs for the upper class people. It's scary. It's a spooky time, man. Like, I know it all sounds a little bit like I got a tinfoil hat on, but maybe I do. I can't really say. But if we continuously move down this pathway, that's what you're going to start to see in the generations to come. They're not going to be able to maneuver their way out of poverty. It was a simple game plan. You had to just go to school, get an education, and that essentially would move yourself up out of that. But that's a whole different story because old jobs are not going to be the way. There's new jobs coming in, and I don't know, maybe save that for another day. 404, what are we in for? Like, comment, subscribe.